The Rambam explains that these kind of ideas, such as anger, when we talk about God, it's not really possible to say that God actually gets angry in a literal sense. It's a metaphor. God shows that He's not happy. So He, in the terms of could do one of two things. He could turn away His presence, so to speak, His providence, his showing of His involvement, and when that happens, bad things. When God goes away, so to speak, or He's not facing us, so then bad things come in their place, and He can also actively make bad things happen. And however, Pinchas, because he began this action of turning it around, so in his merit many were saved. And another thing, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, right? Rabbi Shimon says, it says ben Elazar ben Aaron, it says the son of Aaron, the son of Elazar, the son of Aaron. It says the son twice. Why? Again, because he was really the son of Elazar. We know Elazar. We already introduced him. We know that he was the son of Aaron. So why is it saying that is as if he's the son of Elazar and the son of Aaron? Why? Because at that moment he became the son of Aaron as well. Why? Because we said before, the souls of Nadav and Avihu became reincarnated within him. Really? Rabbi Shimon says, Amar Rabbi Shimon, Hai bar nash shenata gulgula de nishmasa. A person who gets a reincarnation. Peter, if you can ask them just to quiet down a little bit. A person who gets a reincarnation. Now, one of the reasons why often a person gets a reincarnation is why? Because the soul that it comes into him hasn't been, or her, hasn't been completed yet. It needs a tikkun, needs to be fixed. It has some serious things that are not correct in it. So, Ki'ilu Mishaka B'Kushta D'Malka. Now, if somebody gets extra soul and then continues to act improperly and doesn't fix whatever it was that needs to be fixed, so then, in other words, you've been giving an opportunity. You've been giving an extra soul. It's an opportunity for tikkun, to fix whatever was wrong with what went wrong in the earlier lifetime. And if you don't take that opportunity, you're messing up not only your own life, you're messing up this other soul. And it's as if you are contradicting the truth of the king. Okay, why? Because God is trusting you. And He's saying, listen, I know you can do it. Here, have this extra soul. He'll help you. You'll help it. She'll help you. You'll help it. And you let her. You let you let God down, so to speak. So you're double trouble. Vana krina lehai, that person, there's a verse that could be stated, O matza aveda, or a person finds a lost object, which is about a soul. They found a soul that was kind of lost. But instead of returning it or acknowledging the owner's rights to it, the person lies and says that, no, I never found anything, right? So that means v'chichashba here is interpreted as that the person sins again. Instead of returning it, fixing it, the person falls again and doesn't fix that reincarnated soul. V'nishbal shakar, and swears falsely, meaning it's as if you're contradicting what God had to have faith in you to give you this soul. Tavle de lo ave, I give out such a person, they missed out their purpose of living. Okay, so that's a little bit about reincarnation. We're going to talk a little bit more about reincarnation. That what happens if you have a situation that the soul needed to come back, comes back a second time to begin with in a second body. Now, what do you do when Chiyas HaMesim happens? When the reincarnation from the dead happens? You have two bodies and one soul. Big conundrum, big question.
Yeah, but not simultaneously. I mean, if someone is reborn, it's in a different generation.
I'm talking about in the future when Tchias HaMesim happens.
Resurrection.
Oh, okay.
Resurrection. Which body is going to get? The previous body or the
So-
I get it, okay.
Now, let's say the person almost finished what they needed to finish in the first lifetime. They only had a little bit more to finish. So then the second body, who even though they were good and did all these good things, but they were doing it for the sake of the fixing of the soul. And because of that, the main being will be the first body, and then it'll go into the first body in Tchias HaMesim. Because the second body was only a loaner. It's like when you don't have your car because it's in the shop, you get a loaner. Now, Reb Sheshes was a rabbi that already in his earlier lifetime, he was already a great person. And there was a little bit he needed to complete, so he came back as Reb Sheshes. But he was really worried. He was worried that when Tchias HaMesim will happen, he's not going to get up again. His body won't get up again. Because his main resting place of his soul was with his earlier body. Anyway, this is one of his big concern to him. Tanina.
What was his concern?
Why do you prefer the second body over the first body?
Because that was his body now.
Maybe he liked the first body better than his second body.
There's something to your body. I mean, it's not just like, maybe I could just change my body. I mean, it doesn't work like that. Your body is like you know?
But that soul was in a different body.
Yeah, but now he's in this body, and he wants this body also. He was feeling badly about this idea that this body may not get up again. Rafi, would you be bothered by that?
So do we have a choice? We get to pick like all the ones we can.
Like, what are we going to do? Like, I have to pick between this body. Like, let me see the picture of how my last body looked, then I'll decide. You know?
And what happens if like she said, there's 5 bodies involved?
It's like a TV show.
There was an article in Vanity Fair about Madonna, and I think it was Daphne Merkin or something who wrote who interviewed her, if I'm not mistaken. So she writes this article, and she writes, like, of course Madonna believes in reincarnation. She has a great body, so she's not worried about her next lifetime. But you never know. Madonna may not be so lucky.
Next time.
Yeah, but
But
next
at Tchias HaMesim, she may have the earlier body, you know.
impoverished
Which was
person
more
in India.
Right.
That's why she's looking out for them now. Okay, let's get back on track with Sheshes.
So suppose one of your incarnations, you're in a very...
Oh, I'm not getting into that. This is so... No. I know, I can't even begin to go there. I know I brought it up. I'm sorry for bringing it up.
You don't want
So,
that one.
Tzaddik Gomer, yeah, it's like, who are you going to be married to? You know, let's leave that alone, you know. Tzaddik Gomer Eina Nidcha, but Tzaddik She'eina Gomer Nidcha. So we learned that a complete tzaddik can get pushed away. Well, there's a whole discussion in what is a tzaddik gomer. And we're going to learn a little bit about that here. A complete tzaddik or incomplete tzaddik. So Mayu tzaddik gomer, who's a tzaddik gomer, a complete tzaddik? Manhu tzaddik she'eina gomer, who's not a complete tzaddik? Usually we say it means a tzaddik that's complete is like all the way, like his righteousness or her righteousness is like 100%, and somebody who's not complete, their righteousness is not 100%. So, for example, one of the examples, and the Tanya believes that a tzaddik has to be somebody who's perfected not only their actions and their thoughts and their speech, but even their inner kind of emotions and feelings and thought, the things that are kind of their what we call their unconscious is also pure. So, what's the difference between a not complete tzaddik versus a complete tzaddik? So a not complete tzaddik is somebody who has, in their unconscious is a little bit of not such good things in it, but it's batal berov. It's like subservient to the majority. The majority is let's say 1 to 60, and kashrus we have different shiurim, different amounts. That the smaller amount becomes nullified as if it isn't, or as it becomes like it's kosher to the bigger amount. So the minute amount of imperfection in the root of that person's being is transformed by the greater good, and then blah, 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 blah. Okay. You all know that. It's all simple to you, right?
And tzaddik gomer.
That's a tzaddik she'eina gomer.
And tzaddik gomer doesn't have any.
Doesn't have, it's all
Pure.
good.
It's all pure.
Now, of course, this contradicts the idea that there is nobody in the world that hasn't sinned.
And tzaddik gomer.
Yeah, exactly. So there's also, that's the Tanya is chidushim on what a tzaddik, what a Beinani, what a Rasha is, these different levels. The Tanya is not the pshat, it's chidushim on it. But again, so either the tzaddik gomer means literally somebody who does everything right, or tzaddik sheni gomer means they go do mostly right, or it means they both do everything right, but in the root of them, the tzaddik gomer is completely good through and through, and the einik gomer has a little bit that needs to be transformed, or can still be transformed. The question is, if somebody isn't 100%, in other words, the Zohar is asking, if they're not really 100%, how could they be called a tzaddik? Yeah, they're tzaddik, but they're not completely a tzaddik. I mean, how could you know? El tzaddik gomer yediyah. So here's the Zohar's interpretation. Who's called a tzaddik gomer, complete tzaddik? The halo natal gugulon akimin. Somebody who never got a crooked reincarnation. In other words, it's not either they're a new soul, or if they're an old soul, their earlier incarnation never did anything wrong that would cause them to need to be reincarnated. So the question is, if they didn't need to be reincarnated, why bother? The answer is there are some souls, like the Ari said about himself, that he didn't come into the world because he was imperfect in his earlier lifetime, but he came into the world to teach. Particularly, he felt that he came to teach Reb Chaim Vital. That was in other words, or it could be, you could have perfected your life, and you don't have any reason to come back, but your soulmate needed to come back, and you feel like you're going to want to be there for your soulmate. So there are reasons to come back for certain circumstances beyond yourself, beyond your own perfection. So tzaddik gomer is somebody who's reincarnated, but not because they were deficient in their earlier incarnation, but for some other reason, to bring Mashiach, or whatever it is. Uve'achsante bona binyan, and in his or her inheritance, meaning in their new body, they built a real structure. That's an expression, means they lived an amazing life. V'iskin shurin, and they made walls. In other words, they made places where there could be light that illuminate. V'chatzav birin, it's describing like what you would do if you had an estate. And what would you do in the estate? You'd make big, around the courtyard, you'd make magnificent walls, and you would dig cisterns. These are all expressions of affecting the spiritual world, of elevating souls. Not just for your own spiritual well-being, but really perfecting the world around you. Because part of our job here is not just to do good for ourselves, but to be mevarer, and be misakin, to elevate, to clarify, to rectify, to transform the world around us. But not to ilnin, and plant trees. A tree is usually a combination of when you combine the two energies of the divine name, Yud Ke Vav Ke, right? That's the name that we're most associated with. It's associated with Tiferes, with Zeir Anpin, and the Shem Ad, the Aleph Dalet and Nun Yud, which is usually associated with Malchus. So that's Elon. That is Gematria Elon.